So the people over at theroot.com are trying to butch up their image and actually try to make it look like they're concerned about black identity. The Root posted an article by Kelly Goff about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas ruling to strike down the Voting Rights Act with the harsh title, Race Traitor. Obviously, someone is trying to get some attention over there. The problem is that the message has substance, but the messenger is so unbelievable that it actually makes you question the message itself. The article describes Clarence Thomas as, quote, consumed with ambivalence toward and loathing of his own community. So now this corporate mouthpiece of a website has decided to take the gloves off and appoint themselves arbiter of who is a racial traitor and who is a racial loyalist. Before the Root decides to yank off Thomas's black robe so they can put it on for themselves, they should do a reality check. Where has theroot.com been for the last 6 years? With every conceivable insult that has been thrown at black society, and yet they choose to resurrect an ancient boogeyman like Clarence Thomas? Why? Because this helps them to deflect attention from what they haven't been doing for years now. When Barack Obama ran for president in 2008, the Root asked no questions. They didn't ask what his policy toward black society would be. They didn't ask him to make commitments to his people. They didn't ask him about the fact Michelle Obama was the first black woman he'd ever dated and that all his previous girlfriends were white. Last year, in May of 2012, The Root does a story about one of President Obama's previous girlfriends, a woman named Genevieve Cook. Throughout the entire article, it gives snippets of details of their time together, but not even once did they mention that Miss Cook was a white woman, nor do they post a picture of her. This is a conscious effort by The Root not to decimate support for Barack Obama during a re-election campaign among black women who might actually start asking questions about the racial solidarity this biracial president feels for black women when his only black girlfriend was his last black girlfriend. If The Root was going to be concerned about racial loyalty to black society, that concern certainly hasn't been on display ever since MSNBC made Melissa Harris Perry their new mantle conversation piece. Melissa Harris Perry, a college professor, is a holdover from the Keith Olbermann years at MSNBC. That gave us an inkling that she harbored some radical thoughts, but nothing could prepare us for what Perry would unleash once she anchored her own broadcast. Melissa Harris Perry has been waging a one-woman war against the intact black family that includes a man. She's done multiple pieces, not just praising single mothers, but altogether questioning the need for fathers in the home. She's launched nothing short of a jihad against the very concept of a two-parent male-female black family. And what has The Root done to take Professor Perry to task for this assassination of the black family unit? They named her the top person of their The Root 100 list. As if they couldn't do more violence to black society, The Root commits the disgrace of adding Perry to a list of black feminists, quote, who've opened doors and shaped how we see ourselves. And what makes this distinction even more mortifying is the fact The Root has the gall to place Professor Perry, a disturbed personality who has declared it her life's mission to break up the black family, right next to luminaries like none other than Harriet Tubman, who risked life and limb to keep the black family together. And here's another grievous offense by The Root, the promotion of feminism. They make no mention of how feminist doctrine has decimated the black home. They just mention the word and then try to attach black female icons to it in the most disgusting display of guilt by association ever committed on these heroines of black history. They lump a plebeian like Perry in with Sojourner Truth as a so-called feminist. Obviously, no one at The Root has ever read the life story of Sojourner Truth, because if they had, they would have known that while Truth did promote the cause of women gaining the right to vote, she showed her base allegiance to her people by turning her back on abolitionist and women's rights activist Elizabeth Stanton after Stanton said that she wouldn't support black people gaining the right to vote if women didn't also get it. Sojourner Truth understood that she was black first and a woman second. But ironically, the importance of being black before anything else is peculiarly missing from the website that so falsely deems to call itself The Root. for black people today. Furthermore, on this list is Angela Davis, who outright abandoned the black freedom movement in the 1960s so she could chase delusions of grandeur by attempting a singing career and ultimately marrying a white man as she completely exited the conversation of black empowerment in America altogether. The list goes on to cite honorable icons like Harriet Tubman right next to vicious black male-hating stalkers like author Alice Walker, who spent her life letting white movie producers turn her novels into daily doses of dysfunction fed to the black psyche. And the Combahee River Collective, a group of Black Panther wannabes whose mission statement was that, quote, as black feminists, members struggle together alongside black men to fight racism, but against black men to fight sexism. Think about that the next time you post this picture on your Facebook. Their declaration of war against black men can't be said any more clearly than that, and yet the Root actually holds up their credo of division in black society as something to be proud of. So if this is what the Root thinks is so great, why are they mad at Clarence Thomas? He does the same thing. We can just see his white handlers. If ambivalence and loathing toward your community qualifies as newsworthy, one would expect the Root would also have some choice words for Shonda Rhimes, creator of the TV show Scandal, about a black woman who's relentlessly ignoring eligible black men so she can pursue an adulterous affair with a white president. The Root did do a column about it, but they only ask if black women are being exploited. Not one mention of Miss Rhimes promoting an anti-black family image. But the most egregious atrocity, and I mean that literally, is when the Root attempts to praise Faye Waddleton for being the first black female to be in charge of Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion provider. Planned Parenthood is the brainchild of white supremacist Margaret Sanger, a eugenicist who promoted the idea of wiping out whom she saw as inferior human beings, starting with black people. And the chief tool her organization settled on was genocide by way of abortion. Not surprisingly, black people have the least access to health care to save our lives, but we have the most abortion clinics in our neighborhoods. And sadly, the highest rate of abortion. And the venerable people at the Root, who want to declare Clarence Thomas a race traitor, are actually congratulating Miss Waddleton for heading Planned Parenthood for 14 years, from 1978 to 1992. Planned Parenthood has killed approximately 17 million black babies alone since 1973. There's so much grist for the mill that I can't contain it all here. Needless to say, the Root is late to the party of serious black debate. They spent so much time on the sidelines trying to cozy up to media figures that to hear them talking about race traitors is just downright bizarre at this point. If you wanted to get people's attention, you succeeded, but it's not going to be the kind of attention you want. The time to be concerned about our people inside the race who are attacking our race has been a long time past, and Clarence Thomas is the least of our worries at this point. Because you want to know what a real race traitor is, Miss Goff and the folks over at the Root? I'll tell you. A real race traitor is someone who selects article after article praising people who despise the black family and trying to disguise it as feminism. A real race traitor is saying the TV show Scandal exploits black women, but not saying one word about the black woman who created the show, and never once questioning if she's a race traitor for promoting a dysfunctional relationship with a white man over a functional one with a black man. A real race traitor is when you write an article about the first black president's first girlfriend and deliberately refuse to identify her as white for fear of offending his base. A real race traitor is not calling out Eric Holder for refusing to step in on the cases of Oscar Grant and Troy Davis. A real race traitor is promoting Melissa Harris Perry's crusade against intact black families by holding her up as a role model without exposing her demented worldview. A real race traitor is a so-called black website that refuses to call out a black president who bombs Africa, talks down to black people at Morehouse, and stands in front of Congress to demand action specifically for gays and women and even non-citizens, but refuses for 5 years to even mention black people. And you never once questioned his loyalty to his people. A real race traitor is a black person who's proud to be made president of a white supremacist dream project that's killed literally millions of black children, and she can keep coming back and doing it day after day after day for 14 years. And the bigger race traitor is the website that gives her a standing ovation for doing it, as if this is something normal and honorable. I know that the Root is only a corporate mouthpiece, and I understand this. So to the newcomers who think they can gin up support for their website by trying to claim being ultra-black nationalists now, you can give that up. You gotta earn the right to speak for what represents black. Just leave all the hardline black talk to some people with some credibility.